Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
All right, guys. It is Monday. This doesn't sound quite right. My volume is a little bit too low, but we can work on that a little bit later. Do I sound okay, guys? You let me know over here. Let's go and look at the charts. Gotta warn you, this is the time of year where things start to get slow. But I don't know if that's today because we got a pretty good move going already. First 10 minutes, there's been some pretty consistent selling. There was some selling before that. I'm not quite sure what the driver is here, but we are moving. So there's the treasuries. S&P 500 doing okay. So it's not like some flight to, well, I mean, treasuries are going down, so it's not like some risk-on move or anything like that. Oil down a little bit. You know, I would think maybe I'm kind of on the lookout for geopolitical tension. You know, that could be one thing that prevents things from slowing down is geopolitical tension. Gold and silver. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so gold and silver, they're taking a big hit this morning, but they were up. They were up earlier in the session. Like big time. Silver, so now that we're like above 30, I'm kind of eyeing 50. Is it too early to be eyeing 50? I don't know. That's kind of where I'm looking at though. All right. Kappa pushing to new highs overnight as well. Japanese yen. Read, I was like on YouTube, saw a new Patrick Boyle video. I haven't watched it yet, but it said that Japan spent some like 50 billion or something like that defending the yen. Like, wow. And has it been that effective? Kind of not. So Bitcoin's still at 6,700. So, I don't know. That's pretty good. I'd say, that's a win for Bitcoin to hold those levels. So, Okay, Uzi says effective 528 E-Trade is going to be settling trades in a day. So, when you say that, I start thinking about all these possible implications that could have and how that could be a really big deal. But then my first immediate thought is, well, but isn't that kind of a regulatory thing though? That you have to wait 3 days for it to settle and everything. Like, I guess the money would come back in your account, but I don't know. I don't know if just like one broker can kind of... Okay, so you say the SEC changed the rule. Do you have a story for us, perhaps? The Securities and Exchange Commission shortened the trade settlement period from T+2 to T+1, or 1 business day after the trade, starting May 28th. This new settlement cycle applies to stocks, bonds, municipal securities, exchange-traded funds, certain mutual funds, and limited partnerships that trade on an exchange. Okay, that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. Because the way that it works now, if you do a trade and it's like a day trade, the money's not available to you until 2 days later. And if it's available to you the next day, that kind of helps. I don't know if, well, no, I didn't think that you were making that up. I was saying that there's like a certain amount of like nuance that we have to understand there first before we can make a big deal about it, right? So like the thing that I'm picking up first that I didn't pick up from what you said was that it used to be T+2 and now it's T+1, right? Which is really not like the same day. I'm surprised Fidelity hasn't notified you. Actually, I am too. But maybe, you know what? My email is so messed up. I've had Gmail as long as, it's been available. Like when it was made beta to people, I was in from the very beginning. And I get so much junk sent to that. It's like, that's why I do all of my real business through the Proton Mail account. Speculators at thatprotonmail.com. Let's see here. For some reason, my headphones just don't sound right to me this morning. It just sounds like my voice in particular. Well, you know what? Let's just turn. How about that? That sounds a little bit better to me. A little bit more full. It was an alert. Oh, that's interesting. Nope. If I search for Fidelity over there, I don't really get any. I'm surprised it took them so long to make that change. Yeah. Well, I don't think that surprised would necessarily be the right word, right? Like, especially in the stock market, there are a lot of things that are very antiquated, and I expect it will take them a very, very long time to change them, and that they will drag their feet and so forth, So like this GameStop thing. Some people are upset about what's going on with GameStop and like, oh, you can be short more shares than are actually available and so forth. And people treat this as this is a corruption problem. How are they allowed to do this? Well, because these hedge funds, they're so big and powerful and the prime brokers want to please them. And so they do sketchy things for them and yada. No. I don't think that that's it. I think it is more a kind of a clerical problem. It's like you're a trader, you're talking to your client says, I want to go short. And you're like, oh, okay, well, we don't have that many shares, but we'll go find them. And so you just go and you place the trade, and then it's the back office's problem, right? And then the back office can spend like a week or whatever it is, chasing the shares down and like fixing all of that stuff. And right, it's not like on the CME where you go and you make a trade and it can only trade on the exchange. And so everything's centralized, right? It's not like that at all. Stocks, you can buy the stock certificate and just like keep it, right? Well, not buy but you get what I mean. Like you can get the certificate, take it from the brokerage and just like keep it at your house or whatever. If you want, you could do a third party transaction. Like you can do things outside of the exchange with stock certificates, things that you can't do with futures contracts, right? And so there is all of this kind of infrastructure and so forth around that makes it a complicated thing, and people can take advantage of that complicated paper trail sort of system, And that's how you end up with like the old GameStop thing where they were short more shares than are available from our information. Now, I should be careful about that because some of the way that was presented was like, wasn't actually like we know that they were, because you can't perfectly quantify it, frankly. Right? Well, it does. I know it is. It is crazy that they can make, trade high frequency trading, right? But then it takes 3 days to settle trades. But when you look at how the back office systems work, it's actually a really amazing thing that they're able to do it, and that they're bringing it down to T+1. That's crazy. That's huge. I think that people think of the back office, if we want to call it that, is like this big monolithic system that like everybody is connected into or something like that. And that's not really the way that it works. It's a collection of tiny little systems that are all set to do a specific thing and kind of all tie into each other, and it's just a complete horrific mess. Now, what you could have happen is that you could say, the government could say, all exchanges are now under one, I don't think that you would get rid of exchanges per se, but you would say that they are now all under the authority of one central authority of some sort that can say, you need to do this, you need to do this, and all connect into one system, so that all trading essentially is now occurring in a centralized execution system of some sort, and that you're not allowed to trade securities outside of that system, right? If they came in and they said that sort of, then you could have practically instant clearing, right? But it will never happen. That would be wrong to do it that way. That would be a huge overstep of government power. Not that it affects us, since, well, even if you're not making money, it affects you. Like, you imagine you're a day trader, right? You go in and you take some options trade, you lose money on that options trade, and then that capital isn't available for you for 2 days after that, right? So now you took a losing trade and you miss out on a trade the next day because you don't have the money. Might not realize how big of a deal it is if you're trading futures. Okay, let's blow my nose here. Okay, so I think 0 day to expiration options may have something to do with it. Maybe. You know, it's just wild to me that 0 day to expiration options have become so popular. But you know what I think it is? So this actually concerns me. So, you know, the Federal Reserve has control over different variables. And one of the variables that it has control over is basically margin, right? Like you have to have 1-to-1 for margin. So like if you have $100, you can buy $200 worth of stock. You can buy 50% of it on margin, is the way that it is. And the Federal Reserve can change this, right? And this was put in place because after the panic of 1907 or whenever it was, right? That was a collapse where traders were buying tons and tons of stock on margin, and eventually, like, they ran out, and then everybody lost money, and because it was all on margin and everything, like, the system just completely collapsed. Like, the money was just not there. And that was when, like, JP Morgan came in, saved the banking system. They decided that they needed to make a Federal Reserve, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so like, a large part of the origination of the Federal Reserve was that they kind of had to control, like, how much margin was out there to buy stocks, right? And so now what happens is people use you can't buy stocks on margin per se more than 50%. That's not enough leverage for people. So we go through all of these kinds of roundabout ways to get the leverage otherwise, right? So I can trade options, and then the options, those don't move fast enough for me, so we go to 0-day to expiration options, we do futures, right? Like, that kind of bothers me, that it's kind of a workaround to the safety measures that we have in place or surrounding margin. Now, because they're options, I mean, it is a little bit different, okay? Because the people that own the actual stock at the moment, they can't be more than 50% leveraged. But that does not preclude that you could get a real collapse if somebody, like Bill Huang coming in and putting some sort of bet on that he shouldn't be able to, and kind of tricking the system. Okay, well, that had substantial effects on some of the stocks that he was in, and some of the financial markets, right? What happens? You get somebody like that really affects, like, the whole financial system. You could see a real financial crisis just off of one player, because we're kind of giving people these runarounds around the controls, I don't think it's a good thing overall that 0-day to expiration options are becoming so popular. Sounds like a good way for people to just lose more money. Well, I originally thought, okay, we're having this downtrend. I don't know what's causing it, but let's see what they do at 109 even. They did go through 109 even quite quickly, I thought. More traded at 31.5 than at evens, but now they seem to have kind of balanced out right there. So, do you have any theories as to why? Do I have to tell you? I think what? So I have an answer, but I want to know, what do you think I'm going to say? What do you think my answer is going to be? Think about this for a little bit. I'll give you a few minutes. What do you think my answer is going to be? Why have the indexes been so quiet the last few days? I'd say it's been more than just a few days, but I need to figure out why. Oh, by the way, we have a ton of Fed speakers today. That's Waller, or Bostic is speaking right now, I believe. And we'll have Waller at the top of the hour. Should we come in and do all this stuff? Okay. Are you going to talk about the No. It's a good guess. That's a very good guess, Lucas. No. What look at the calendar, man. Okay, so we know, let's see here. Memorial Day the 27th? Right? Yes. Memorial Day is next Monday. And then we come over here and we look at the calendar. What do we got here? We got a bunch of Fed speakers, FOMC meeting minutes, PMIs on Thursday, and consumer sentiment on Friday. And that's it. Right? So we are in the second half of the month, the light news flow portion of the month. Okay. End of month flows are going to be like the 28th through the 31st. Okay. So like, what do you got going until Memorial Day? And then we know that after Memorial Day, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, that the market liquidity tends to be lighter. The market activity tends to be lighter, right? Sell in May and go away, right? It's summer action coming early is what it is. And this always tends to happen. It tends to slow down these 2 weeks, right? Because May often gets front loaded. This time it really got front loaded. And then what is there going on? Nothing. So, yeah. Get comfortable, Lucas. Get comfortable because it's going to be like this, if not worse, for the next 3 months. Man, that is a really light news week. But we do have Fed speakers this morning, so write that down. Like when you look at our flows, that's all we got. I guess one thing that I can consider on here is Iranian president dies. I am like, okay, this is a conspiracy theory at this point, but like, okay, the Iranian president over the weekend, helicopter crash, dies in a helicopter crash. Okay. Now a normal person, they hear there was a helicopter crash and is going to immediately think, oh, well, so it was an accident. Okay. But if you were properly informed, you'll remember that we've had all sorts of document leaks that essentially show that the CIA and Israel have all of these complicated ways to mess with the electronics on airplanes, cars, and other types of vehicles to cause them to crash. And that there have been a number of bizarre incidents where journalists and other important people have died inexplicably in car crashes that some people think maybe weren't accidents, because we know that they have the ability to, and we know that we've used it to assassinate people before. So could Israel say, okay, wait until this helicopter is in this mountainous region of Azerbaijan where it will be really hard to get to them, and then we'll shoot the helicopter with our little radio wave that causes all of the microchips in the helicopter to go haywire and cause the helicopter to crash? I think there's a really good possibility that's what happened. And I wouldn't be surprised over the next week to see some sort of a story that suggests that's what happened. I'm coming up, I haven't seen any like articles or anything speculating about this. Okay, but you will you will in the next 24 hours. Everybody wakes up, they're going to look at it. There's going to be a bunch of people that are going to speculate that Israel did it. And you know what? It actually is a reasonably good chance that they did, to be honest with you. I think they would only do it. Killing the leader of Iran, the president of Iran, that's kind of a big deal. I don't think that they would do it unless they were really confident they'd get away with it, right? So. Okay, so there's Waller's speech, and they said that he doesn't say anything about economic policy or the outlook in his speech. I didn't think you were well, I'm very anti-conspiracy theory, but I don't know if we really call this a conspiracy theory, right? It's not a conspiracy theory in the way that, it's not a very deep if we call it a conspiracy theory, it's not a very deep conspiracy theory, right? It's like, well, yeah, because we don't really have any direct evidence of it. No, we don't. Don't you find a helicopter crash with the president in it to be a little bit like, that's a very unlikely to happen, right? Very unlikely to happen. But it's not a very deep conspiracy theory, is it? It's just, well, Israel has the technology to make that sort of a thing happen. Maybe they did it. But you're right. We don't have any evidence to suggest that Israel made it happen. But given the other, I don't know. Like, okay, so here's the argument against it. The argument against it is Israel just had kind of a little, back and forth with Iran, and then that all kind of died down. Wouldn't the last thing that you would want to do right now is to, like, inflame Iran further? I don't know. But who can say? There's all crazy stuff. Because one of the things, so this is actually a big deal too, is in Israel, the kind of the political opposition leader who is a part of the coalition government has said that if they don't have an acceptable Gaza continuity plan by like next week or something like that, that he will leave the coalition government, which would trigger new elections. So that's kind of a big deal because you've got the Israelis going in there and going, all in on just destroying Hamas. But the reality is they don't really have a very solid plan about what to do afterwards yet. So, like, that's kind of the problem is, like, yes, you need to eradicate Hamas, but, like, you eradicate what is currently Hamas probably doesn't solve your long-term problems. Probably doesn't solve your long-term problems. I heard that's what the Celtic players did with... Are you suggesting that the Celtics have access to secret government technologies? Not so secret government technologies? You know what, though? So here's the other weird thing, is that that's like the fourth near-death incident for a major world leader in the past week. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's a big deal. And the news has really played it up too. It's gotten more airplay on the news than I thought it would. But yeah, and I haven't really seen the speculation yet, but I guarantee it's coming. I'm going to speculate that it was Israel. One out of every 24 New York City residents is a millionaire? What is that notepad? Oh, it's just Helix. It's just the command line. And Helix is a command line editor. Would not, you know, one out of every 24. That's like 4% of New York City are millionaires? Probably, yeah. Is it because all the poor people are leaving? I don't know, maybe. Like if we're just considering Manhattan, okay, and you look at the rich area of Manhattan, you know, like around Central Park, right? Is that about 4% of the available living space? I'd say probably. So 4% sounds like a reasonable amount to me. But that kind of gets into this whole thing that's like, okay, the median income in the United States is like, what, 50,000 still? Let's see, do we have updated stats on that? $2023. That's showing me 2022. Okay, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median annual wage for all U.S. workers in 2023 was $48,000. 48,000. And meanwhile, we're getting these studies that suggest that, like, you have to make $200,000 a year to live comfortably as a family in most states now. Okay, well, that's kind of a biased statistic that they're giving there, because that's going to probably assume that, like, you bought the house today at current interest rates and all of this sort of stuff, right? But you're telling me that you have to make 4 times the median wage to live a middle class lifestyle in some places if you don't already own a home? That is freaking nuts. That is so crazy. But that's kind of where we've gotten. In other words, I think it will be very difficult to tamp down inflation. You know, there's been this remember the argument used to be, is it necessary to destroy the economy in order to bring inflation under control? I guess that could still kind of be considered an open question, because inflation hasn't come back to 2%. But it has slowed considerably. So I think most people have kind of forgotten about that question because inflation has slowed considerably. But I'm kind of, you know, looking at the way that things have been going, and I'm kind of wondering, maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe, like, can you get inflation under control without having to cause a recession? It seems to me like maybe you can. But maybe the real question is, should you? Should you? Maybe that quote-unquote recession is necessary to bring some things back into balance, right? Like, how are you going to bring the housing market into any kind of a reasonable state given current conditions without a recession, right? You're going to have to, we are so short supply in the housing market. You're going to have to build so many houses to bring things back into balance, and that's going to take decades. And in the meantime, everybody's going to be screwed. Big problem. Big problem. I am not as sick as I was on Friday, but I'm still got kind of getting a little more thick. I guess I need to drink more water, huh? We're kind of due for a hard landing. Oh, I don't know. So I mean, when you say that, the first thing you got to realize is that there's details matter, right? Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of recessions in the 1900s. Okay, there were a lot of recessions in the 1800s. Go and look at the recessions in the 1800s, man. There was periods in the 1800s where the United States just lived in a state of perpetual crisis. Okay, it was crazy. It wasn't until after Theodore Roosevelt came along and we kind of had the turn of the century, so like the 1880s to 1906, that they really had like some real prosperity come through, right? And then they had a really big panic, the 1906 one, or 1907. Is it 1907? I don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering the years, but and then the Federal Reserve came along, right? And you had the Great Depression. Great Depression was, I think, largely a issue of the Federal Reserve not knowing how to function yet. Okay, so let's discount the Great Depression. So then you have to go into, well, there was a financial panic in the 70s. That was because of oil and inflation. And a president who made poor decisions, LBJ, but kind of forced the Federal Reserve to print money. Okay, so let's discount that one. Then there was the 1987, I think it was, crash, right? When LTSM went under and all that sort of, right? Black Friday or I don't remember. But that one was brief. That one was kind of like, so I don't know if you really count that one either, because that one was super brief, right? Largest one-day crash in history. Yeah. But like they recovered most of that one. So and they were kind of already in the recovery on that one. So I don't know if you really count that one per se. So then you get into like, what were the real crises that we had? Well, the 2001 crash, the 2008 crash, and the COVID crash, right? People would want to discount the 2001 crash because, 9/11 and everything, but that was just going to happen. It was going to, if it wasn't 9/11, something else would have triggered it, right? That one was liable to happen. 2008 crisis, you just can't make excuses for that one, right? And then COVID, I guess. Right. So really, I think about it as like three unavoidable, like natural market crashes, compared to like every 2 years in the 1800s. Right. So what is the point of all of that? Is that we live in a time of unprecedented financial prosperity, even given all of the problems. Like what we've got right now in COVID, people are very, very upset about that, about the current financial situation. But it's pretty good relative to the way that finance was in the past. So, but we have some much larger structural problems now than we've had in the last 100 years, right? Like this housing situation in particular is a big deal. It's crazy to me that the politicians aren't out there talking about this literally every day, that's like all they talk about. Because I think that it matters to individual people that much. I don't know if it'll be a thing. I don't really see neither Joe Biden or Donald Trump talk about it, but that could be a single issue you could win the election on that. Right? If Biden or Trump came out with specific plans to address housing and to get more houses built specifically, whoever has a better plan to get more houses built would probably win the election. But neither of them seem to be talking about it. Because I guess their older voters don't care. Something. Does your data provider provide order ID? Otherwise, how are you able? Okay, so none of my indicators claim to track meta orders per se. And yeah, there isn't a way to track it. So there's not like a trader ID that you can use to correlate all of the different orders together. No, there's not. But the way that we say there is a meta order is a persistent imbalance. So if I come over to my charts, I think that your cumulative delta is probably your best sign of a large meta order coming through. We don't really have any good examples on this chart. Maybe this, but I want to see just a slow and steady change in cumulative delta going one direction. And that to me, that's a large meta. Like, why does an imbalance of that type come through? The evidence that we have suggests that it's large meta orders are responsible for those. So that's kind of how we track them. And I would say, like, the autocorrelation of cumulative delta is probably the best sign that you have that there's a meta order out there. Okay. But in terms of my indicators, the most useful parts of my indicators are allowing you to see the dollar. How are you trading without knowing what the value of the currency that you are trading in is doing? Okay. By the way, the dollar was kind of on a rise, and it looks like it's trading back down. You think it could trade all the way back to 104.3? That's kind of the thing I'm asking over there. And if that were to happen, how would that affect things over here? Well, it could help equities, maybe. Like, as the S&P 500 moved down here, as it moved down here, that's the period when you saw the dollar moving up. Okay. The other really useful thing that you get is spreads. I know that there are free versions of spreads, but mine is better because you don't have to manually roll it over, for instance. It's really annoying to have to go through and every month change them all. Here you can see a little bit of steepening on this down move. So the 30-year got hit more. That's really important. So those are the two most valuable ones. Okay. The next most valuable one, I think, is actually these market depth tapes. I have these over here. So this shows me every time that there's like a really large order that stacks or pulls, it will make a sound and it will show me over here. So this does a really good job of alerting me to something changed on the DOM that I might not notice on my own. So that is really, really valuable to me. What if you track increase, decrease in cumulative delta without a significant increase, decrease in the price? Well, so if we're really getting a good persistent imbalance, you're extremely unlikely to have an increase in cumulative delta without an accompanying change in the price. Okay. But if we are seeing a divergence of that sort like that, where the cumulative delta is moving up and price ain't going anywhere, then I stay away from it. We want to trade when there's an imbalance and we can see that that imbalance is causing price to move. If it's not causing price to move, then I don't know why that's happening and I don't want to be involved. It could be, or it's likely because of some sort of hedging activity. Yeah. Of course, you have to define what significant is. Yeah, well, so if you want to quantify it, what you can do is you can take cumulative delta, put it on a chart, and then there's an indicator that comes with NinjaTrader called R squared. And you go and you put R squared on there. R squared would just default run on price. So that would show you how auto-correlated price is. Okay, so R squared is useful. So I have it over here in this chart. This is R squared right here. So R squared. But then I would also add another R squared, but change it to look at cumulative delta. And then you would say, like, if cumulative delta R squared is above 0.8, then I want to take a trade. And that's how it would quantify it. Now, for me, I can take it even earlier than that if I anticipate the imbalance, right? If I come in here, I have them written down for today. Lots of Fed speakers, money flows are slow. Second half of the month, lighter economic news, and the Iranian president died. Okay. Does that, in and of itself, that information suggest a persistent imbalance in the future order flows? No, it does not. If anything, it kind of says that it will be slow and tight. Okay. So I don't have one. But if, for instance, I knew, like, maybe it's next week. Maybe it's next week and I say end of month rebalancing should cause selling in equities and buying in treasuries. Okay. Then I see just a very small but slight kind of trend forming and cumulative delta is starting to get consistently long. You know, I can jump on that before it becomes 0.8. Guess I was kind of thinking about, you know, I have a couple of different, let's say, indicators and like strategies that I would probably want to be running, and I'm not. And I should probably just be running them. But I don't know. I was actually thinking of doing some programming today and doing the programming the better candlestick chart version. Like SPS better candlestick or something. But I don't feel like doing it at the moment. Even though it's definitely slowed down. I guess I'm still kind of like a little bit on edge as to why the treasuries had such a strong downtrend. ICC seeks arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Hamas leader Sinwar for crimes against humanity. Okay. I wonder how that one's going to play out now. 29 stumps, says rolls on the floor. You think that's funny? I don't think it's funny. But I don't think that they're going to do it. I don't think that anybody's going to be arrested, but I don't think it's funny. Yep. International Criminal Court, I think is what ICC stands for, right? Oh, that story's been out for an hour. Wait, what are you talking about, Uzi? It's basically a complicated way to say we're neutral? Oh, by saying we want to arrest both of them? I don't know. Yeah, by issuing arrest warrants for both sides. If I was a part of an organization of that sort, right, I would take very seriously the responsibility of issuing an arrest warrant for somebody, knowing that if I arrested an arrest warrant for somebody that wasn't really the bad guy, or that I wasn't actually going to be able to prosecute, right, that would damage the reputation of that institution so much. You really got to be careful about what you actually do, right? And these guys don't seem to think that way. They're like, well, we can do it, so let's do it. Okay. Like, frankly, I kind of feel like that if you don't have the means to arrest them, that it's not even worth doing anything, you know? Because otherwise it just makes you look like an impotent institution. But I guess it is an impotent institution, and so maybe it really does just get used for political posturing. I don't know. NQ dumping? I don't know, man. There's a little bit of bearishness in the S&P 500 in the indexes right now, but nothing too crazy. And we got like 2 minutes until we open, so I wouldn't worry about it too much yet. Let's just see what the first 5 minutes I have in store. Still kind of getting some up pressure in the treasuries. But under these circumstances, I'm kind of skeptical of any kind of trend forming. So I don't know what was with this downtrend, but now we're kind of getting uptrend. And so my natural inclination would be to think that it gets to like 0.2 and it can't get above it, you know? Okay, but we do have something to check out here for the open, the first 2 minutes, and that is, how screwed is GameStop? Oh, you almost forgot about that one, didn't you? Didn't you? But it's still out there and going. Let's see what happened on the overnight. Well, they are trying to hold some overnight gains and keep things above, let's say, 20. I am concerned that with the options expiration that we had on Friday, that on Monday you could see some heavy selling. But let's see how they fare. Maybe that doesn't happen. You know what else? I kind of wonder, like, the Raging Kitty Twitter account, like, what is going on there? He just posts like a bunch of memes, and I'm kind of starting to wonder if it's even the same guy. Like a lot of people, the conspiracy theory is that somebody bought his account and then is using it for a pump and dump. Maybe. I have to say, if he's still in this thing, then you're kind of dumb. But whatever. Okay, here we go. And the first bar in GameStop is down and halted. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Oh, wait. Is it actually halted though? Maybe it's not halted. I'm too lazy to pull up my Fidelity to really see for sure if it's halted or not. He should be charged and banned for pumping and... Well, I don't think that what he... Okay, so when we talk about like the original incident, he was not pumping. It's not wrong to come in and say, hey, I think that this company has more value than the market is giving it, and that there's a lot of shorts, and so I think that it could be worth this much and investing in it and all of that sort of a thing. Okay, so he didn't start that. And, you know, I think that after that incident, that his behavior was okay. But this more recent incident, I don't think that you're necessarily doing anything legally wrong, but it sure just seems kind of dumb to be like, okay, it's happening, you know, it's kind of happening again, and just post a bunch of stupid memes that nobody is really sure what they really mean. You know, that's a little bizarre, don't you think? Something's kind of going on weird there, all right? And you know what? These kids in GameStop have nobody to blame but themselves. Okay? Should I go into this? Listen, if you're one of those apes, let me explain to you why you just got your ass handed to you over the past week, okay? Because this move will come back to a daily chart, man. This is just crazy. And basically everybody that bought into this thing is screwed. How did that happen? I think that people have this idea in their head that like there's something that's supposed to happen. That like the market is supposed to do that thing in a certain way, and like all other things being equal, if there isn't some sort of manipulation or whatever, the shorts should be forced to cover, and then the stock is going to go bonkers crazy. Okay, you need to dispel these myths. Okay, that's not the way that the market works. The market doesn't have to do anything. We have this idea like it's supposed to follow the fundamentals, and if the fundamentals say it's worth more, then it's going to go up, or if there's too many shorts, then it's guaranteed to go up at some point in the future. It doesn't work that way. Okay, here's the way that the market actually works: is there's limit orders and there's market orders, and in order for price to move, the market orders have to overwhelm the limit orders. That's it. It's the market. The prices are completely a function of the orders that are placed into the market. If you come in with a market, you have, you know, same starting price and the same set of orders placed in them through the day, you will get the exact same result. It is 100%, you know, systematic. It's input output. Okay, the orders put into it directly. That's the price that you get. Okay. The issue is that you're never going to get the same set of orders in there, right? Because there's all these different reasons why people buy and sell. Okay. So all you can do is try and predict whether the people are going to buy and sell. Okay. Well, if there are shorts, that is a future potential buyer. Yes. But the metrics that we have right now for GameStop suggests that there's not that many shorts. And you know what? Like, there was some shorts, but they were probably covering in that big spike. Like, that's the crazy thing about it, is that you're identified a big potential future buyer. You successfully squeeze him, and then they don't take the profits. Like, what the heck? Okay, so then after that, who's buying? It's just you. It's just you. And again, it's limit orders, market orders, okay? If you bid it up, all of this, right? What are the market makers that are supposed to be holding bids going to do? They're not going to hold those bids. You just pumped it up like from $10 to $60. They don't want to hold that. They're going to pull their bids. So what happens? Comes right back down. So this idea of like iron hands sort of a thing is stupid. You won. Take the winner. And they don't, and they just get screwed. Look. Diamond hands. What did I say? Iron hands? Look, there, you know, people will say the market's not fair. Well, look, in any system, when we're talking about economies of scale as like the market, okay, if there are rules, there's going to be certain players that are advantaged or disadvantaged. That's the nature of a system, okay? There's going to, in any system, there's something to take advantage of. No such thing as a perfect system, okay? And, you know, over time, those people that are advantaged by that system are going to become more and more powerful, and they're going to use that power to consolidate their power and make themselves even more powerful, okay? So that is a thing, okay? But why does that happen? Because of the rules of the game. So for you to stand any chance whatsoever, you have to understand how the game works. You have to understand how the game works. And these GameStop players are basically, you know, not even playing the game, really. Because their whole concept of how this works is wrong. They think that you know, they are forced to cover that like there's some sort of cosmic equalizer that says that if there's too many shorts, they should be forced to cover at some point because fundamentals. And yet, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's buyers and sellers, future buyers. Predicting the future buyers and sellers is basically the only way you make money trading. And I can tell you that after it peaked on this day, after that, if you were in this, you're dumb. Like, I can understand you missing out and like selling somewhere in like the 40s, 30s and 40s. But like, if you're still in it, then you screwed up. So there's my rant for the day. I should have recorded that. Oh well. What do you think about John Grady? I love his book. And that was kind of how I got to start. I don't think that it's like everything that you need, but I think he's pretty good. Let's come back to a 1 minute here. Ah, look, while I was ranting, they rallied a little bit. Just a little bit. That might have been enough to trigger a stop, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think his trade room is worth it. Well, so he I think what you're talking about is he does like a webinar sort of a thing twice a year, where for like 1 or 2 weeks he just runs a room like this. Okay, it's kind of expensive. Is it worth it? I don't know. there are recordings out there you really dig. And because I really think that where that's going to be valuable is having direct access to him during, while it's trading, right? So whether it's worth it is going to be a function of how much money you have, how much experience you have. You're talking about like valuing something that's very, very subjective, right? And the value of it is very dependent on who you are, right? I never did that webinar. I'm not going to spend that much money on something unless it's like, guaranteed to make me money, right? And it's not, there's no such thing in trading. So that's a significant sum of money to me that I would rather have invested. But that's me. Maybe you're already a millionaire, then go for it, man. Right? Treasury maybe potentially turning around here. But so far not an actual real clear pivot. So, and in fact, probably, so again, I was earlier talking about, well, if I'm expecting long flows, so if I was expecting long flows, that would probably be enough right there. That would probably be enough to trigger me long. I don't like this price, like 0.2 half. I kind of was a little concerned about. Plus, we're back to the inventory cost basis, which might be a place where they try and bounce it. So I'm concerned about it turning down. But that's, again, because I don't have a very strong bias today. Like, I don't have a very strong imbalance in the expected flows. Ergo, my expectation is that they're going to get to the spot where it seems like it's breaking out, and it's going to seem like, oh, they're going to just trend up all day, and then it will immediately reverse, right? Unless I'm wrong and there is a persistent imbalance long. But how would I know that? That's why I just don't take a trade. Yeah, it's expensive, but you know what? Like the whole thing is that he does it regularly. There is a market for it, so who am I to say he should or shouldn't do it? But his book is very cheap. Like the beginner's course, it's like what, $70-$80, something like that. Amazing book. He's so much value for nothing. So worth it. Time-wise, if we are in a meta order, the second leg should be about now. You mean like if we were going to get a second leg short? Maybe. I kind of think that if we were going to get another leg short, that it's already too late. That we should have already seen it by now. The issue is I'm still not sure what caused that downturn. I was kind of looking around like, I came over here to Forex Factory. Okay, is there anything in the overnight? Like, when did this start? The 6:15. So like 5 minutes before the open, I would say. Yeah. But there wasn't any news or anything that I can see at that time. So I don't know what caused this drop. Change this filter back to just being the dollar. I can also come over here to like Financial Juice and look, but Let's scroll back a little bit. Can it go back that far? Well, maybe. Let's try. A global tax on billionaires. Janet Yellen says no. There was a bunch of Wall Street Journal articles at that time. Julian Assange can appeal extradition to the U.S. I can't believe that that's still freaking going on. Yeah, and this just doesn't really... Nothing's super clear about why. It's just some cell, real fast one came through. I don't know what it means. But I guess all the more reason to sit on my hands, right? Okay, so GameStop, after a pretty strong attempt at a rally, coming back to unchanged. What do you think of it? Asus ZenBook for trading? Okay, so here's how I would judge these sorts of things. You're short at O2, okay. Well, O2 isn't bad. You can certainly let that one ride, right? Asus ZenBook. So let's look it up. So what I would be looking for is like, how are they marketing this? Okay, it has an OLED panel. That helps. Probably a Pro Art would probably be better. Premium and effortless portability. Pro. Okay, so some of these, there's multiple ZenBooks. Some of these might be good and some of these might not, right? Like this one, its whole thing is, it is thin and elegant and light. I probably wouldn't get that one. Right? But maybe the Pro. He said a ZenBook Pro Duo, so. Okay, 32 gigabytes of memory, that would be good. It has a GeForce built into it. That's a good sign. Wow, are you really spending $2,600 on a laptop though? Jeez, these ain't cheap. These ain't cheap. Okay, so like here's what may be my question though. Does it really need to be a laptop? Do you realize how awesome of a PC you can build for $2,700? Like, you can build one of the best workstations you could get right now. Like the workstation that I built, my most recent workstation, I spent like $900 on it. Okay, and it doesn't have the nicest video card in it. Okay, but everything else is like the recent best bang for buck. New motherboard, it's an AM5 motherboard, all that sort of stuff, right? So add on top of that $1,000 graphics card, $2,000 best PC that you could get. Right. Oh, it's for work? Well, So now there's another take, which is like, if somebody else is paying for it, right? If somebody else is paying for it, I think that you could trade on that. That sounds like that you could trade on it. Again, you want something that's high performance. So like something with a really nice screen. So like this is a 4K OLED display. That's a good sign. Okay. You don't want these ones that are thin and yada, 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 right? Okay, but, you know, there's some alternatives. So, like, for instance, where I work, they like the gaming laptops. I forget what it's called. Is it the Titan series? I think mine's a Raider. These are great. So these give you really good power for reasonable prices. But the battery sucks. Like the battery is really awful. But I never take it out, so like this doesn't matter so much to me. So that's one option. The internet loves Lenovo's, and there's very good reasons why. Okay, their laptops are really tanky, good quality. These ThinkPads are great. So that's a 14-inch. Man, I'm not finding anything ever even remotely close to what you were looking at though. Like if they're gonna spring $2,600 for the laptop, then like go for it, I guess. Just be careful because maybe they're not very frugal. Check out the S&P. Oh, it's running, man. Look at that. Well, I didn't predict that it was gonna run, but I did say like, oh, you guys, you think it's crashing? Like, let's just let the first few minutes play out first, and then we'll see, right? Oh, okay, they're taking off. Is that an overnight high? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's easily it. In fact, you have to come back and look at this chart and see. $53.50 would be kind of the upside target area. Wow, we're so close to that though. That's not very far away. So we could see a breakout this morning with that kind of momentum. They keep moving up to it with this speed. I don't know if they will be able to do that though. GameStop still okay. So GameStop isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but you were gonna have to watch it throughout the whole day. It's still something where I think that they could slowly, you know, just kind of slowly, and then once they reach there, then it's gonna be like, oh crap. If they eke out a win today in GameStop, I think that I would say I'm surprised. So far, they're doing okay, though. So far, they're doing okay. Just minimize that. No, the ZN came back up to the 0.2 half, huh? But just equaling the previous... See, it still kind of looks to me like it's just playing games. I don't think that there's a trade in here. Fearing an AI takeover, the godfather of AI advises UK government to start a universal basic income. I tell you what, man. These left-wing people, they want universal basic income so hard. It's not going to work like that, guys. There could be a situation where like AI automates everybody and so many people get pushed out of the market that you have like a crazy recession, right? But then what would happen during that recession is like prices would just all crash. Like it would just be a period of insane deflation. And then when you come out of it, everything would be so dirt cheap. That's like the worst case scenario with AI, right? But I think that AI is overhyped. Like I keep seeing the thing that I think is funny is everybody's saying, oh, it's the computer jobs are going to be the ones that are going to be first to be automated away. No, not from where I'm sitting. Like, has AI made my engineers more efficient? Maybe. Could I use less of them? No, not by a long shot. The AI just gives us more to worry about. It's like now we have all of these projects where they want us to utilize AI and try and make our own AIs, and that's on top of the work that we're already doing. So AI is just more work for me. So I don't see this it's going to make engineers obsolete and all this sort of stuff. It's not happening where I'm looking. And the reality is that it can't think, so I still have to test things. I still have to code review things. Still have to deal with the infrastructure. And when you look at the market, okay, there's an AI craze, right? Okay, so what are the stocks that are making the money from the AI, right? It's the people selling the shovels. Like where is that small independent company that got rid of all of their engineers and are just relying solely on AI now for everything? And they've transformed their service and making hand over fist because they've been able to reduce their costs so much. Doesn't exist. Is it out there? I haven't seen it. All I see are AI companies that are offering AI solutions are the ones that are making the money because it's the hype thing right now. It's people selling shovels. We are good for a little while. Yeah, well, and this is one of the other things is that like, okay. So you have like these curves, right? You ever seen this thing where like, okay, the processor speeds, it was going like this, right? It was going exponential. And people said, oh, it's just going to keep going until we have like infinite compute all of a sudden, right? And then what happened? Actually, like the laws of physics kind of came along and actually it didn't do that. Oops. A little hiccup on my system there, kind of levels off. And so now CPU prices don't rise very much anymore, right? Like they've been kind of stuck at 3000 megahertz for a really, really long time. There's an upper bound to it. Okay. So what is AI like? Well, make it a little bigger. I think that AI is like this, and we are here. That's what I think. Because, for instance, ChatGPT came out, and it was like this huge thing, and all of a sudden everybody's playing with the AI and everything. It's a big deal, right? Okay. And it went from ChatGPT to all of a sudden we're at ChatGPT 4. Like, whoa, why did they go from basically 1 to 3 to 4? Like, where does GPT-2, they basically skipped, right? Okay. And but it's been 4 for a while, and now what we have is 4.0. 4.0, which is basically ChatGPT 4 just put up against a reinforcement learning that includes like vision and speech. That's why it's not a new version of the GPT algorithm itself. That's why it's 4.0. So what is that? You're already reaching the diminishing returns. Like, how much more efficient can you make a large language model? My guess is not much more, because it turns into, the more and more data that you put into it, the more noise it gets. And so it just doesn't really actually help make the LLM more accurate. So I think that we are already reaching the scaling laws for the LLM itself. Okay. So in order to get to this place where like these AIs replace programmers, you would probably need 2 or 3 major advancements outside of LLMs. You would have to be able to combine the LLM with some sort of other AI that actually understands logic and can check it, right? Some other AI that actually understands the syntax so that the code that it writes will actually compile, right? Some other AI that can actually like test the work that it does, to be like, okay, you want me to do this, so I'm going to write a test that says, okay, these are his requirements, and then I'm going to write code, and then I'm going to see if my code meets his requirements, right? So those are major advancements that are just as big of an advancement as the discovery of large language models themselves. Okay, so those are advancements that, for all we know, aren't going to happen for hundreds of years. It could happen tomorrow, but it could take hundreds of years. That's the kind of level of advancement it is. This is not just a, it's not just a, oh, you take what we have and you throw more power at it and you make it better and then it does the thing. No, it's not like that. You're talking about a completely new innovation, and you can't predict the pace of completely new innovations like that. You can't. But what that means to me is that there probably is an AI bubble that pops, I think. Because here's what the next step of this is going to be. As companies are like, oh, okay, our engineers, they can use ChatGPT to try and write their code, except for that it doesn't write very good code, but maybe it kind of replaces Stack Overflow in some instances. Okay, yeah, sure. Replaces Stack Overflow in some instances because it can give you an answer that's a little bit more well adapted to your specific code without having to actually ask a question and have people do it, right? So that's cool. Okay, but then what do you do after that? Well, after that, you're going to want to integrate the AI with your systems, right? I want a ChatGPT that has access to my data, essentially, right? So here's the scenario. You export all your data and you give it to the AI. And you do the training on it, so now it knows how to use your data, right? And then all your data changes. So all of the answers that the AI is giving you, they're outdated, they're wrong, right? So how do you fix that? Well, you're going to have to constantly give it new information, which is not, like live training with new information. That's like kind of on the edge of the current research that we have right now. There is some stuff involved with that, but it's not very good, right? So you just have to create some sort of automated cron job that just says, okay, take all of this stuff that's in my database, output it into a format that the AI understands, input it, take it to openai.com and put it into the thing. Maybe do a couple of little training exercises with it so that it knows how to use the data correctly, and right, you have to do that. So now you're building these data pipelines essentially, right? Data pipelines are not a simple thing. They're not a simple thing. It's just as complicated as everything else that you do in computer science. So here again, where I'm saying that's like, you're actually just creating more work, right? You're just creating more work. What impact will training AI with Reddit content have? Well, I suspect, I have a theory, conspiracy theory, that when we first got ChatGPT, that it was trained with Reddit data, and then, Reddit's, put a stop to that, and that was why ChatGPT kind of got worse in some respects. That's my theory. Because, and I think that it was probably the same with YouTube. I think that it knew it had like all YouTube videos transcribed or something, and they took it out. Because when we started, the first version of ChatGPT knew who I was. I could ask it questions about Speculator Seth, and I could ask it to write things like Speculator Seth, and it would do it, and it was amazing. And now it doesn't know who I am. It'll analyze itself so thoroughly and generate peer-reviewed studies so furiously that it'll basically do nothing. No, like that again, but that's not what an LLM does, right? The LLM cannot do anything that somebody else hasn't already done. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I feel like that Reddit is like wants things to be peer review studied and everything, though. That's the thing that's I think is so funny about Reddit, is that really what the way that Reddit works is there's like an internet pop culture, right? There's like certain pieces of content, certain factoids and so forth that are popular because they will go to the front page every time, right? And that's basically all Reddit knows. So it has like a surface level knowledge of most subjects at best. And then when you go into places where there's actual like real knowledge about a subject, and the people that are actually experts on the matter kind of have to fight with the crowd to get the correct information out, because so many people are misinformed. So that to me is like basically Reddit is basically laser focus on the thing that is gonna like be the most viral, and like doesn't understand anything beyond that. So when you come out into something like for instance, in Utah, we're making a new hockey team, and people are debating over the name for the hockey team. And so what does Reddit want for the name? They want it to be the Mammoths, because it's dinosaurs, right? Like that's dinosaurs. That's the thing that's going to be the most popular on Reddit, right? And not Yetis, right? Okay. But like for the very reason that they like it is probably why Yetis is probably going to win and beat Mammoths. Because like kids, they're gonna like Yetis more. It's just having Reddit to train it against will make it better, but then you're gonna have all of the biases in the AI, and then that's gonna be a completely different problem. And man. It was really funny if you go on the subreddits where they're talking about this AI stuff. Like one good subreddit to look at is the Singularity, because the people that post on the Singularity are not software engineers, right? They're just let's say, kind of Reddit type people. Like they don't explicitly work in technology, but they like the internet. right? They like the internet, and they're probably kids. And so they're interested in AI, but they're not actually working on it, right? And so they all think that we're going to have a singularity, which is this point where AI advances so fast that it surpasses us and potentially destroys us, or it causes us to ascend into some higher state of being or some higher state of society or something like that, right? Well, so they're posting threads like, okay, are they crazy or are we? Because you're starting to see the tech people push back and being like, this is kind of stupid. Because let me explain to you what's going on in the tech world right now, right? Is that these AI guys that come in and they talk to your CTO or your CEO, and they're like, dude, this AI, it's going to make you so much money. You should buy this thing. And they're all like, oh, well, we need to jump on the new thing. That's what we do as tech entrepreneurs and everything, right? So they want everybody in the company use AI, right? So then everybody in the company uses the AI, and they're like, you know what? This kind of sucks. Like, well, okay, there's some skill in using it. That's one of the big things. But like, you can't just use the code that it spits out to you. You can't. The code that it probably won't even compile. Even still, even with 4.0, it's better. 4.0 is a lot better with code, but it still sucks. Still sucks. Right? So the tech people, and on top of that, everywhere they go online, they're being told, oh, you guys are going to be replaced now because the AI is going to replace you. Okay, the tech people are sick of it. the tech people are already sick of the AI, right? They're pushing back. And so you know, there was like a story the other day where this guy was saying, I don't think that it's going to go the way that some people are saying, right? And so there was this thread on the singularity that's like, are they delusional or are we? But the thing that I would point out is that, like, when you go and you read the comments, like, people aren't making technical arguments. They're not going like, okay, here's our experience with it. Here's what it's actually like, where we're implementing it and stuff, what it's actually doing. You notice that? Like, that's the big thing is okay, show me the companies. Show me the companies where they implemented AI and what did it do to their bottom line and what did it do to their workforce and like all of these. Where are the actual effing numbers? Not seeing them. Maybe that's because it's not been long enough, but I kind of think that it's because, like, even though there's benefits to using AI, that you can't just like fire everybody. Like, you still need just as many people. At least with where it's been applied so far. There might be some industries, like someday I hope that the AIs just replace the whole trucking industry, for instance. Right? That would be cool. And trucking is a big industry right now. Well, S&P 500 still on a tear, kind of pulled back a little bit. I'm just now noticing, although it's been going for a while, but I'm noticing now that oil has kind of been following the S&P 500 up. The treasuries have kind of just consolidated around 2 and aren't going much of anywhere. It'll become one big, fat, useless communist college kid. You know what's something that I think is so funny is, like, you see all these people, they're constantly doing this analysis like, let's compare red states versus blue states and this sort of a thing, and right? And such analysis like that is so brain dead. Like, you must not understand either statistics or like the actual makeup of the country if you think that you can just like straight up compare red states versus blue states. Okay, like what is happening in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama is not what is happening in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. Okay. Completely different parts of the country. Okay, like when you're analyzing Republican states and you've got Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, etc. Okay, you kind of have to take into context the unique history, demographics, and economic opportunities of that region. So it's kind of a little bit different, right? That's why every time they're like, okay, well, let's compare crime. Oh, well, Republican states actually have more crime. Yeah, because of Mississippi. But without Mississippi, it's a different story, right? But the thing that's funny about it is that it's the opposite of what the argument that they try to make. The argument they try to make is Democrat states do better and Republican states don't do as well. That's the argument they're trying to make. But the reality is that prosperous states are Democrat because they've been prosperous. And Republican states are tend to be conservative because they're more rural and haven't had that same globalist growth, right? Like when people are doing well, they tend to be more willing to take these chances and these risks on liberal ideas. And then when things aren't going well, they go, oh, well, we need to turn back to the conservatives. You go back to the way that things were, essentially. Right? So it's actually the cause and effect backwards. I think that they have cause and effect backwards. Right? And so it's just like these things. Like these people that have been really prosperous, like their parents did really well and they have a good education and all of, they have a tendency to trend towards these kinds of high-minded communist ideas, right? Like it's this bizarre thing with human nature that's kind of the opposite of what you'd think, right? You'd think that when you're having success that you would be like, okay, become more conservative. Like this is working, don't change it. When things are going bad, oh, now we need to have changes, right? But that's not actually the way that people work, apparently. What do you do with these people? I tell you what you do with them. You let them live life and they find out. That's what happens. Listen, the boomers that are such conservative voters right now, and everybody's like, oh, we need to get rid of those boomers. They're the only thing that's keeping us from progress. They were the hippies. How do you get from these hippies to these ultra conservatives that everybody wants to die? How does that happen? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you how that happens. They grow up. They have you get a real job, you get kids, and all of a sudden all of these ideas that you had when you just kind of mock them up as, well, I was a young kid, I didn't know what was going on. What do we do with the truckers that I want on the streets? I tell you what you do with them. You put them in jobs making things. If you basically automate the transportation and even like the assembly and production of things, then everybody can focus on owning, managing, and like coming up with the ideas, designing, let's say, right? But I think the reality is that there's a limit on how far the AI, like I think that the AI could probably drive trucks, but I don't think that like the AI could like create a product line from start to finish, a new innovative idea that nobody's thought of before and makes a company a million. Like, they're not going to come up with that stuff, right? It'll probably be more like millions of people who lose work day out. No, it won't be like that. Like think about it for a second, okay? Like, okay, so you have all of these people, they were truckers, and now they don't have jobs anymore. What are they going to do? Okay, are they going to sit around at home and sit on their butts and just be depressed? Some might, Okay, there's a lot of people that are kind of prone to depression and are kind of prone to being unemployed, then they're kind of like that. Okay, but that guy that was like a go-getter all his life and was working really hard all his life, he's not just all of a sudden going to be like, okay, I guess I'm just going to sit here at home for the rest of my life and decay until I die. Like, no. Right? What they're going to do is they're going to turn around and they're going to be like, well, this guy down the street, he needs this thing done. This guy, he needs this thing. I know how to do this. Like, they're going to find stuff. Right? Meanwhile, everything's going to be so effing cheap at that point. You got to understand. I think that this is... Oh, hold on. We got the music going to go away? Okay. You have to think about it from a macro perspective. Okay? So what is this from a macro perspective? It is the single greatest deflationary event that will ever happen if AI really starts taking over certain industries, right? That'll be the single largest deflationary event ever. What does that mean? Things will be cheaper. Like it'll be so bad that it'll be like, in order to really make like real sums of money, like become rich, you know, your product has to become so insanely popular because the margins on things are going to be tiny at that point. Just because it's so easy to make. Because the robots do it all. Government will just fold back and reduce expenses / less taxes? I don't know about that. You know, because the question is, what does government need to do in that situation, right? Does our healthcare expenses go up or down, for instance? I don't think that artificial intelligence is going to reduce the costs of healthcare in the United States. Casually disregards governments printing countless trillions of dollars to subsidize the population? Well, in a deflationary event like that, you will print a lot of money, but you won't have inflation. You would really have to be going ham with the printer to be able to have inflation in that situation, right? It'll be like, think of the time period from 2010 to 2019. So that 9-10 year time period. Just think of that on steroids. Oh no, I don't think that's the case at all. 4 years ago, all of the smart people were saying, hey, you're printing too much money, this is stupid, stop. And they didn't listen to them. I'm still sore about that, man. Everybody that knew what they were talking about said that this was going to cause inflation, and then everyone was, oh, we couldn't have seen this coming from. Oh, give me a break. Everybody told you. The economists all told you. Politicians decided to do it anyways. They're like, no, don't worry. Modern monetary theory will save us. Yes, that's... Every headline said it would. Well, that's... I'd say that the news media very much did kind of try to say that it wouldn't. I don't know if I would say it wouldn't. I don't know, man. Like... Everything that part of it is that I'm going to consume different media from other people and things like that, right? I definitely remember the New York Times spending all of this time that, oh, it's not going to cause inflation. Okay. But there was plenty of prominent people at the time that said that it would. People on both sides there, like Larry Summers, right? So now the Federal Reserve definitely said that, like, oh, we don't think that there's going to be like real inflation from it. We think that that's a little bit of the inflation you're seeing right now is transitory. The Federal Reserve definitely said that. That wasn't, I think that the most prominent person that came out that warned, hey, this is too much stimulus, was Larry Summers, who's a Democrat. So, excuse me, my nose getting a little plucked up again. Oh, I don't know about that. I think that there were like, it's not happening, and they still continue to try and gaslight us into believing that it's not happening when we can see it in front of our faces. Like, I know that there's like news articles where you can look at individual instances of them saying, actually, it's your fault. Okay, like here's the thing, is that the liberal perspective of looking at this on inflation is that they say, well, if X thing happens, you can still choose to just not raise your prices. And if we all just agree to not raise our prices, then we'll all be okay and there won't be any inflation. Ergo, if there is inflation, it's only because people were greedy and chose to increase their prices when they really didn't have to. That's their take on inflation, right? This is stupid. Why is this stupid? Well, because you're a company, price rises are coming. That's going to cut into your bottom line. You want to raise your prices as early as possible and kind of make money from it so that you don't get screwed later on, right? Like, it's going to happen either way, because every incentive in the system is for you to raise your price. So this imaginary world where people don't raise prices and we're all okay, it doesn't work. What happens, that imaginary world, because that's what the communists thought. And what happens? You get product shortages, right? Okay. But we were talking about, you start to see a deflationary world. If it starts to happen, you'll see it, and you'll see it in the data real fast, man. It will be prices of things declining too quickly. No inflation at all. The Federal Reserve, like, going super easy monetary policy and putting like as much money into the economy as they can, and still barely being able to get any kind of, still struggling meeting that 2%, like it was for that whole 10 years where we printed and printed and printed, and it just nothing happened, right? That's a totally different situation. In that situation, if you get inflation, like, that's insane. Come on. When the government has to prop up a sizable percentage of the demand of the curve, there's a little, yeah, it's totally right. It's like, well, I'm going to make money no matter what if I raise, so why wouldn't you? Yeah, that's totally right. But that doesn't really resolve the argument, though, Uzi, right? Because what they want to do is that they say, well, the solution to that problem is just have price controls. Make it so that they can't raise their prices unless it's just, quote unquote, justified by their standards. So they would have some sort of a rule where it's like, unless your cost is going up, you're not allowed to increase the price of the thing, right? Which I don't know how you would do that. Like, it wouldn't be constitutional, but that's what they want. That's what they think could happen, right? We know what happens when you put price controls in places. You get shortages. So if there's high demand at the current price point, they will buy out all of the inventory unless you raise the price. If you think millions of working class people tossed to the curb are going to just strap up and drive into your field as opposed to descending overwhelmingly into a mess of violence and substance abuse and depression, you're naive. Yeah, well, some people might go into that and probably won't do very well. But like, this is the thing, is that there's going to be so much opportunity everywhere for you to go and do things, right? The only difference is that it's not going to be handed to you in the form of like a wage job anymore, per se, right? What I would expect to happen in this situation is that people's standard of living overall improves. People's standard of living overall increases. The amount of money that people make overall will increase. But it won't necessarily be in nominal terms, right? Because why? Because the cost of everything's going to be going down. So you might actually be making less money in nominal terms, but your quality of life will be better because everything's so cheap, right? And you might not have like a steady job per se, like, you know, a 9 to 5 where you come in and you work for the same company for years and years and years. It's going to probably be more like this month I'm doing this job and this month I'm doing this job. There's going to be a lot more of a gig economy in that sort of a situation. Because at that point, everybody's like, okay, so if you come in and you say there are certain ways to make money, right? What are the different ways that one can actually make money? Okay, you can own, manage, let's say design. This is kind of like being the idea person. Okay. Build. Okay. And what I'm saying is a large portion, or let's not say build, let's say labor. You are labor, okay? So if we eliminate labor, you're not going to be able to eliminate all of labor, but if a large portion of labor gets removed, okay, what happens? Either they're going to be all left out or they're going to filter out over into here. Okay. Guess what? Labor is the least valuable sector of the economy in our economy right now, at least. Labor gets paid the least. So if they move to other jobs, they're moving to a better job for starters. Okay. That presupposes that all of these areas are going to grow at the expense of this one. If it's not, then you're just moving into some, where the world economy just goes into a spiral and we go back to the Stone Age. You ever think that you're going to go back to the Stone Age? This doesn't make any sense. The income disparities, well, who cares? Who cares? Dude, this is, I mean, that's to me, that's more Reddit brain. Caring about caring about income inequality is the most Reddit brained of all Reddit brained things. Okay, income inequality isn't worth shit. Doesn't mean a fucking thing. Okay, if you're all living in like space mansions, okay, do you really care that somebody else owns a planet? I don't, you know. Like if the standard of living for all of us, even the most poor, has improved, do we really care that there's somebody like Jeff Bezos that can make spaceships and stuff and can go and, you know, or Elon Musk? Okay, do we really care that Elon Musk can become Adeptus Mechanicus and, you know, take over Mars? I don't care. Right? Yeah, income inequality probably will increase. In any situation like that, there's going to be a small number of people that, you know, are able to make tons and tons and tons of money. And then again, they're owning and managing and designing things. And so they're going to have a lot of capital. But again, your standard of living will be better because things will be so cheap. It's not even like some utopian BS. It's just explaining how an economy works and balances itself out in a situation like that. Okay. Right. Like the way I've done this before, but right. Like when we say this sort of thing, it just reminds me of like when the will was made. Because I guarantee you there was some guy when they made the will that was like, you know, I don't like the Grog no like Will. Will take Grog job. Okay, it didn't turn out that way, right? Because people just moved to more productive labor. I mean, it's not like the job that you had to do for the will before went away. It's just there's a lot less effort for it. So what did people do? They moved to more productive labor. So you will too if you're in an area where so like software engineers, for instance, okay, you're going to move from, assuming that AI actually does automated large sections of software engineering, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it did, okay, they made those 2 or 3 innovations that they needed to automate that stuff away, okay, what's going to happen? Well, you won't need entry-level engineers anymore, and you will be spending all of your time managing data pipelines and checking what the AI is doing and stuff. You're moving to like actually more productive labor, essentially, and you probably get paid better in that instance. Might be less of you, but you get paid better. Like the standard of living, your standard of living will increase in that situation. Like this is what happens every time with every innovation that we've ever had that transforms large sections of the economy. What has happened? People's standard of living increases and they move on to more productive labor. So why is it that all of a sudden with this one that it's going to be different? It's silly. I'll tell you why. Because people have an agenda and they want to live for free. They want this basic universal income because they think that they're just going to be able to sit around and do nothing. And like the ironic thing is that you basically will be able to sit around and do nothing. I really think that in the future, that assuming that it's going the way that we think it is, where this super deflationary event happens, and there will be a really ugly recession to probably when it happens too, okay? Because deflation is no joke. Okay, but once you come out of that, things will be so cheap and your labor so productive that you might just do like one project where you work on that project for a month and then not have to work the rest of the year. Like that's the way that it's going to be. Because again, you've moved into a world where your labor is hyper productive and the cost of everything is practically nothing. That means that you won't have to do a whole lot of work to be able to live. And there will be a lot of people that, yeah, you'll pick up a gig job, you do that one gig, and then that pays for your whole year. And there will be some people that they'll still have like a 9-to-5 job or whatever that are still like really hyper valuable to a company, right? And those people will make tons and tons. So there will be like some income disparity, right? But the standard of living for everybody will still improve. Well, if you like to work, then you'll still have. So I think, especially in our lives, I mean, robots are not going to be replacing our manual labor anytime soon. I don't know. Something like that could maybe come up on us real quickly, but that's probably still decades away. And I think that there's going to be situations where, you know, you will, so like maybe robots automate certain types of manual labor, but then there's going to be other types of manual labor that they can't handle, and so you can just switch over to doing those. I mean, like if you really want to work hard, I think that there's always going to be a place for you to do it if you really want to. It might not be like the best option available to you, but you will be able to live, at least. You know, which is to say, like, I don't think that you can really make a very good living being a ditch digger. I mean, I guess they do get paid. Maybe that's a bad example. There are labor jobs out there that you can only get paid minimum wage, right? Okay, but there are also labor jobs out there that pay hundreds of thousands a year that are, you know, six figures, right? Like being an underwater welder, for instance, right? Like there's always going to be a job like that out there. And I'm telling you, it's like, so another way of looking at it is, what makes you think that the advent of AI is all of a sudden going to make demand collapse? It doesn't work like that. It's just people, again, filling your head with all of these ideas that make absolutely zero economic sense because they want what they really want is communism. And they see basic universal income as a really great way to get communism. Okay, so let's see here. What kind of jobs are people going to transition to? Well, so for one thing, you can be a robot trainer. That's going to be a job. Do you know that like most of OpenAI's workforce basically just sit there and interact with GPT and look at other people's responses and rate the responses all day? Because this is all done with reinforcement learning. I mean, like, kind of the funny thing here is that this whole conversation presupposes an advancement in artificial intelligence that I don't think is going to happen this decade. So what's most likely to happen in this decade is there's going to be a lot of people that were previously doing like clerical work, and now what they'll be doing is they'll, you know, have an interface where they see what the prompt was and what the robot came back with, and then they double check the response and correct the robot's response. And there's going to be a lot of that, probably. Which honestly doesn't sound like the most fulfilling work, but it's going to be a job. It's there. And honestly, Another thing, again, if I come back to this kind of take here where, actually, let's just do it in the text editor. Okay. Where, what are the things that you can do? You can own, you can manage. You could be the ideas. I forget what the correct word is for ideas. Maybe design. Okay. And labor. Okay. So I think there's a good chance that a lot of this labor, when it kind of gets redistributed and everything, that more of this goes up to the top. So there's going to be more people that their primary means of income are the things that they owned, essentially, which will be a class divide. But again, I don't think that for these people down in here, that life will be awful. In fact, I think, how great would it be if most people, the way that they were making money was dependent on, having good ideas and implementing those good ideas, and having this army of robots that implement your good ideas for you, right? That's the fucking dream, man. Isn't that like makes everybody like the big boss? You have an army of workers to do whatever idea that you come up with. Because there's plenty of ideas that I have, and it's like, well, I don't have the time to do that, right? So, but there will also be a much larger, we just own things kind of class. I think it's why right now, like, one of the most important things that you can be doing for your children is building as big of a wad as you can. Because there may be a future where, if you leave your children with a large enough inheritance that none of them ever have to work again. Like right now, most generational wealth is gone within 2 to 3 generations. That might change in that situation, because ownership will just be that much more valuable. I don't think it will be like this Star Trek thing where like everybody's needs are all taken care of all the time, and so people only have to work if they choose to. I think there will still be an economy. I think that everybody will still work. I just think that the nature of work will be different. And at least in the short term, some manual labor will probably become more valuable, not less. Because, frankly, it's the manual labor parts that will probably be the last to be automated. Right? I think the first to be automated is going to be customer service. Like, I kind of wonder with car dealerships, at what point do you not really have face-to-face salespeople? You have a robot that sells it. Because this is the change that I think is going to be the most jarring. This is what I see with ChatGPT 4.0. Is I think we are entering in a world where people would rather talk to the robot than to people. That's coming. That's well, it's not here, but within 6 weeks or something, we don't know exactly when they're releasing it, but within the next few weeks, that will be here. And then you will see a world where people would rather talk to robots than to people. Because the robot is basically optimized towards maximizing how much you enjoy the interaction, and people aren't. Right? And yeah, customer service is probably the first one to take a hit. Customer service, the first one, and the last people to get automated, probably manual labor. Like home building. Transportation, I think you could automate, but like And there's some automation going on in the manufacturing process, but like especially building a house, like that's all bespoke. There's gonna have to be a lot of work before you have like robots that are sophisticated enough to do that stuff. Oil's kind of, so S&P 500 still running. Oil's kind of coming off. Treasuries, well, they lost the O2, but they're just not really doing a whole lot. Yeah, you're not going to automate plumbing and electrical, exactly. It's just that each house is too unique right now. The robots are not capable of, doing that. That is, unless we just change the way that houses are done, right? Like if houses are done in some sort of automated manufacturing process and then flown to where they go, that might be different, right? Or if everybody starts living in railroad car sized houses like they do in Ready Player One, right? You'll automate brick. Why would bricklaying be well, I don't know. Like the whole thing that I'm thinking of is like, okay, if I want to build a wall, like how big is the wall? It depends on the space that I have. Like every house is different, right? And so, every little thing that happens in the house has to be adjusted based off of that. And there are like, large similarities between houses, but there's still these teeny tiny little details that are all unique, right? And then on top of that, there's like the decisions combined together. That's where like things become art, in my opinion. Is there's millions of decisions that you make, and some of them aren't even decisions that are like there's an optimal solution to, right? How do you can't automate that. You can make cinder block laying, that would make more sense. I was gonna say like the kind of bricklaying that I'm thinking of, where you're just putting bricks on and you're putting the mortar in between them. Maybe someday, but I don't think the robots are there yet. Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of nuance in bricklaying too. There's some people that are awfully good at bricklaying. I tell you what, really impressed. Like when you're watching videos on TikTok where people are doing manual labor, I think the ones that are the most impressive are the bricklaying. So. Yeah. So there's a large sections of manual labor that are not going to be automated anytime soon. That's why all of these people are saying like, it's actually like manual labor will become more important and like computer science will become like less of a thing. Well, I don't think that computer science is going to get destroyed, but they are right about that. I can see some things that might make manual labor more valuable in the future. If you live in a block house, I don't know. Brachiphagia is different from the structure. Well, okay. But the kind of structure that you're talking about, I around here, you don't make that stuff out of brick or cinder block. You just lay cement. Could they automate laying cement? Again, there's like, every little... You'll have to have robots that are like bipedal robots that can move around and have hands. So like humanoid robots that are completely autonomous and have large power banks too. That's probably going to be a major limiting factor as well as power. That's why so you might see like automation, complete automation in factories on some things. Like you might not need floor workers to work the Amazon warehouse, right? But that's because it's in one place and it's the same place every day and you can have power there and all, you know, and so you can have the robots. But when it's like, you know, it's a house and you build the house and then you're done, then you can't do that. And it's a different thing. I don't think the singularity is happening though, guys. I don't. Anyways, it's time for me to get going. So I don't know. It'll be maybe tomorrow. Or I probably should have started programming, huh? Maybe tomorrow. We'll see what we got going on. Monday is a good place to try and talk a little bit and get things going first, and then. All right, but I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay